we help businesses scale up by identifying key strategic areas for improvement. These are usually growth areas which impacts on the bottom line and ensures business sustainability. Today, we're discussing a particularly important topic, thriving in uncertain times, which we know is critical at this time to discuss. We'll be having a series of webinars, monthly webinars, precisely the Tuesday of every month. And we will notify you of this series. Focus this year in this series of webinars is strategies for business survival. This is because we know how critical it is to keep your businesses going, and bring concerns, even in uncertain times like we have now. Times are quite uncertain, but businesses still need to thrive, they need to survive, so that post-COVID, we'll have businesses that can their worth. My name is Edigom Hansen, and I manage Wider Perspectives Limited. I'll be your host today with my colleague Adaobi Ume, who will be co-host if it arises. Our key discussant is Mr. Kalada Apiafi. Mr. Kalada Apiafi has been a management consultant for over 40 years and trainer for over 35. He serves on several boards, including Bristol School, Buff and Company, Buff and Co Insurance Brokers Limited, GVE Projects. He is also the chairman of Wider Perspectives Limited. This is a company co-founded in 1984. He also served on the board of Faith Foundation, the leading entrepreneurship development NGO in Nigeria. He's dedicated to micro, small, and medium enterprises development. And amongst others, he was part of the study team of Nigerian leaders, both from the public and private sectors, to a workshop on development of SMEs in the era of globalization. The relevance of the Israeli experience. This happened in Israel. That is actually committed to supporting MSMEs globally. Kalada's consulting and training work spans Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, Denmark, Togo, just to mention a few, with clients cut across the public, private, and non-profit sectors. To ensure we have a very meaningful time today, we will establish some housekeeping rules that would help us to actually engage, because we really want to engage with our participants today. I would like to share my screen so that I'm not speaking alone. I want us to be a part of this discussion. Yeah, so we'll have the question time, because we want to engage really meaningfully with everyone. We have questions. If you have questions, those burning questions and in those pain areas, you can send those questions in the chat room. Our videos remain off, please. While admitting people, we put the video off so it doesn't serve as a distraction. It's a discussion, so I and Kalada are the panel, and we will take your questions. So kindly put your videos, keep your videos off. Active listening is very important. It's fundamental that you listen actively so that you go home with something. For you to be here means that this is worthwhile for you. Ensure you're in a safe environment, safe in the sense of it's well ventilated, you're relaxed, your posture is also right, and you're comfortable. One's participation is very important. Participation is as a means, is via questions. So please drop your questions in the chat room. We will attend them. This program is live streamed. So on our Facebook page, Wider Perspectives Limited, and then on our YouTube channel, Wider_Perspectives. So as it's going on here on Zoom, it's also live streamed on Facebook and on YouTube. The session is being recorded. So should you have any need, which I believe you will, to go back to listen to the discussion, feel free to go to our YouTube channel, to our social media handles and our website, download the recording. We'll share the recording. Yeah, you know, the current global situation calls for a different approach and thinking to the way businesses are run. Global production has died, and even IMF has confirmed the global economy has slipped into a recession. So the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, cut its GDP growth forecasts for the global economy for 2020 to be 2.4%. This is the lowest rate since the 2008-2009 financial crisis. This is the lowest so far. There is a drop in global demand for goods and services, although of course people need to feed. So people need to feed. There's a hand raised. So if the admin can check why that is raised. People need to feed, so global demand is really high for food, for basic agricultural products, because people need to feed. But generally, you know, novel coronavirus has actually brought about a devastating impact on the livelihood of households and businesses, and the situation in Nigeria is not better. It's the same, in fact, in many cases, even worse. The price of oil hits its lowest level in 17 years, declining from $59 to $28 per barrel within a month as a result of the demand. It keeps fluctuating. The price keeps fluctuating, but it's really low. And so Nigeria depends on oil as a major foreign reserve, as a major source of foreign exchange. So you can imagine what kind of impact that will have on the country. US dollar reserves has dropped from $45 billion in March 2019 to $35 billion now. Employment figures are skyrocketing, so it's really tough. The stock market is already hit because of the virus. The Nigerian Stock Exchange lost about 2.3 trillion in the first 3 weeks after February 28th, when Nigeria recorded her first case of coronavirus. So big question is really there. As business owners and managers, it will only be foolhardy, really, if you just watch your businesses fizzle out as a result of this pandemic. What can be done at this time? That's why we're here as Wider Perspectives. Discuss, let's engage, share our thoughts so that you can live here well equipped to ensure your business survives and thrives even in this time. And like I introduced Kalada Apiafi, the chairman of Wider Perspectives Limited, he'll be leading that discussion while I guide through. And don't forget to send in your questions. We really need the questions coming in because we want to engage with everyone. So let's get this discussion going. Mr. Apiafi, you incorporated Wider Perspectives Limited in 1984, and you have managed the company for over 30 years. What were your key success factors, and are they really relevant for today? Are they still relevant for today?
Okay, good afternoon all. And thank you for joining this webinar. There's a hand up. Can we find out why? Let the person send a chat. Is Omumelu. Okay, so to quickly answer your question, the critical success factors. The first one was we set high standards of professionalism, including client confidentiality, and of course objectivity in project execution, with excellence as our minimum standard. We also started with a strong marketing philosophy, with the client at the center of the business, and the delivery mindset, and innovative spirit and research. We also started with a team spirit, with people focus, because people are the most important resource for any organization. And of course, in the later years, we got involved in succession planning and strategic thinking. And the final thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that we imbibe the spirit of corporate governance. So we have a board of directors that steers the affairs. So it's not, a company is not piloted by just one person. So I think those are the critical issues I'd like to talk about at this point.
All right, thank you very much. And yeah, they're still relevant for today, but even in these times. So really, what are uncertain times, and are they inevitable? What impact would uncertainty really have on businesses?
Okay. Uncertain times are basically times when it becomes difficult to predict even the next day. So in normal times, you can predict that where population, for example, in Nigeria is going to increase. But with COVID, we don't know where the population is going to end up. Okay. So uncertain times are they're not inevitable. They happen all the time. For example, this pandemic, which can be looked at as a plague in another way, plagues happen almost every 100 years. That has been the trend. So I don't know whether we're lucky or whatever to be seeing this one, but plagues happen almost every 100 years, seem to happen every 100 years. There are wars. Wars also create uncertain times because a lot of things just grind to a halt. So wars can also be defined as uncertain times. We also have recessions where you don't know when the recession is going to end. In fact, uncertain times are recognized in law, in contracts, by the force majeure clause. So they're inevitable, they will happen, and we just have to plan for them.
Okay, so what impact could those uncertain times on businesses?
Well, the major impact is it has a direct impact on the bottom line, which is profits, because they are usually accompanied with reduced income. The other effect is reduced buying power, which of course also leads to reduced consumption. On a broader scope, it has a very huge economic impact. We can see that oil prices have declined so seriously now. And in other nations that depend on tourism, for instance, nobody's traveling. So it has major economic impacts. So it then becomes the GDP of countries are threatened. It becomes difficult for countries to sustain the economy. And all that leads to poverty and unemployment. It also leads to declining investment. And we do know that when there's high poverty and high unemployment, you get negative social effects like crime. Also health is also affected. So it has major impact. And I'm sure it's the obvious anyway.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. So it's a vicious circle and it impacts everyone. Nobody is actually left out and businesses are worse hit. We're talking about thriving in uncertain times. Because if businesses can still thrive in uncertain time, then it means that there's some strategies that has to be put in place. So what innovative strategies can business adopt? Because businesses wouldn't fold their hands, CEOs, management wouldn't fold their hands and watch businesses go on the ground. That's what it should be. They shouldn't do that. So what innovative strategies can businesses adopt?
Okay, well, I first of all like to start by quoting Robert Schuller, who says, tough times never last, but tough people do. So the uncertain times will pass, as they say in the Bible, it shall come to pass. But having used that topic, I must say that it's extremely difficult to thrive in uncertain times. But just like you said at some point, that doesn't mean we should fold our arms. We should do everything possible to survive so that when the good times come back, we will still be in business, and of course, we can continue our success path. Having said that, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. So I'm just going to talk around certain things, and then organizations can decide, and participants can decide which ones are relevant to them or which ones to apply. So the key thing is innovation. That's the key thing. And basically innovation is, you can't do things the same way you used to do. I mean, if we decided to have a physical seminar for this event, I don't think there'd be anybody present. So I probably would have just been there alone. But here we are using Zoom. So the first thing we have to look into are our processes. What aspects of our processes can we change? For example, like we're using online now. So there's limited choice. In fact, when I discuss with some of my friends and they say, oh, the economy, I said, no, the economy is moving to some extent because a lot of us are online. So business is still going on to some extent. And then you have to optimize costs. You have to be extremely careful on your expenditure. Fortunately for us, this particular pandemic has led to some automatic cost reductions, especially in travels. Nobody's traveling because everybody has locked its borders. So automatically, we're going to experience reduced travel costs. The other things, the strategy, so that's the internal side of it. Now for the external side of it, we need to look at, the engine room of our companies. And it comprises of products. So what new products, if our products are having issues in the market, what new products can we come up with? And in saying this, we have to be extremely radical. What I mean by that, because there are some industries that are obviously threatened, like entertainment, aviation, and so on and so forth. If you want to remain in business, you may have to, do something as radical as, going into agric. I'll give you a typical example. Wipro, which is today known as a computer company, actually started as an agric company. But when the son of the founder came back from Harvard, he changed the company to IT. So, we shouldn't have any restrictions, so to say, but I'll put it in more context later on. Then we have to look at new markets we can serve that we're not serving presently. So if our focus, for example, is on oil and gas, and you're doing fabrication, are there other people that we can fabricate for? Then of course, customers we are not serving now, are there new customers we can service? Because if you're doing e-commerce, which we'll talk about later, if you're rendering or marketing online, it means you can service new customers that you're not serving presently. And when I talk about new customers, it also includes new geographies. You can actually service people outside your country. In one of the webinars, one of our clients organized, he told us that, look, you have very big competition now because even Harvard is marketing us. So that's a typical example. But you also have to stay close to your customers. No matter how bad things are, you have to stay close to your customers because you will need them when things normalize. The final thing I'd like to talk about in terms of strategies is that all these things we have talked about, you need to do a lot of research. You need to do a lot of research to give you proper direction. Okay, and research can be desk research. It can be online research. It doesn't mean going around places. So innovation is a key thing. You have to change your processes. You have to look at, even if you want to produce your existing products, you have to rejig. Like I said, our health management organization, for example, is sending drugs by what's it called, motorcycle. Okay, so they're not waiting for us to go to the hospital. They're saying, hey, look, we know there's a lockdown. You can't go to the hospital, so we'll send your drugs to you by motorcycle. So these are some of the innovations that can be attempted. Okay, but innovation is not a new thing because it's always incorporated in business strategy. So for those participants who are not too active in the business strategy space, you need to get involved in business strategy, because a lot of us, we only talk about business strategy when things are tough. When the going is very nice, nobody thinks of business strategy, but business strategy is needed all the time. And then, sorry, just one more thing. They also need to engage in scenario planning. Okay, a lot of people are saying, oh, this couldn't have been seen coming. But if you were engaged in scenario planning, then you would have had your best case scenario, you would have had your expected scenario, and you would have had your worst case scenario. And so for some companies that had a worst case scenario, even though they were not expecting COVID, but I mean, for some organizations, they knew that one day this oil price can come down, and they had a scenario for it. And probably what they're doing now is implementing that scenario.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. You know, listening to you, my mind just went to some SMEs that might not have put strategy in place, that might not have thought through various scenarios. So they are unawares at this time. What advice would you give others that did not plan ahead for COVID-19? You know, what rescue strategies would you prefer? Would it be the same? What rescue strategies really?
Yeah, so some of the SMEs, like some of the SMEs we deal with in Aba, for example, they started making masks. So strategy is good, but strategy is not as complex as it looks. For instance, many years ago, we met a company and they told us their business strategy is very simple, that they have a major client. It's a Norwegian company. They said they have a major client, and that any country that client goes to, they follow the client because the client must give them business. So when the client came to Nigeria, they came to Nigeria, and they're doing business in Nigeria. So, you know, let's not look at strategy as a complex thing. It's not rocket science. So like I said, some of the SMEs have moved into other spaces. There are even SMEs who have said that since people are not buying clothes, they have started dealing in food. So the basic thing is really to research and see what you can do about your present situation.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we would we'll have a poll. We'll just get your views on how ready and how prepared you are for COVID-19. The poll is taking some time to load, so we'll just proceed. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalada, for those wonderful insights. I believe very strongly that have the chat room. We've notified our technical crew. The chat room, you can see it enabled here, so we will have them enabled so your questions can come in. We really need to have your questions because we'll touch those pain areas. So we proceed. In what direction should businesses be looking if they want to maximize available opportunities? And thinking about it, are there really opportunities at this time?
Well, there are always opportunities. They may be limited, but it depends on your own perspective. So to answer your question, I'll say the opportunities, and I'm sure even in the audience, there are quite a few organizations that are plodding along. Some of them even went online in advance. Maybe they foresaw COVID. So I'm sure I can see some people here that I'm sure they're selling their services online. So those are some of the things that we're talking about. So The areas of opportunity, the first thing I would talk about, of course, is the obvious one, which is technology. Okay. So all of us are here on Zoom. I'm sure most of us became active on Zoom just about a month, maybe March or thereabouts. Other than that, we were using Zoom to meet with our colleagues in the US or other parts of the world. But now we're using Zoom to talk to ourselves in Nigeria. So technology is one obvious area. There are a lot of apps that are needed now. People need to know where to get things. And if you have an app that can satisfy that need, you're in business. The second area, of course, telecoms obviously is experiencing a boom. We're all using one network or the other to run our businesses. So it is left to those who are in telecoms or who want to be in telecoms to study the telecoms value chain and see where they can find a niche. Again, e-commerce is the way to go. I know a lot of people are selling on WhatsApp even. They just create a group, even people that are selling what have you, shoes, food, or whatever. They're now doing e-commerce. I mean, one of the WhatsApp groups I belong to for the gym, people advertise even clothes, food, and things like that. So e-commerce is another area. Another area, as a result of the declining oil prices, is for people to look at businesses that use local raw materials. And we have raw materials in abundance. Just before part 2 of our lockdown in River State here, I went to the shops and there was no starch. Not spray starch, the normal cold water starch. There was no starch. And yet we can produce starch from cassava. So another area of opportunity is to look at areas that use, products that use local raw materials. So in that respect, we're talking about agribusiness, and agribusiness goes beyond just producing crops. You can process. Later on, I'll elaborate on that a bit more. But one of the things Nigeria is blessed with, apart from crude oil and natural resources and all that, is that Nigeria has over 162 research institutes. So the other day I was discussing with my son about producing chocolate and how, on behalf of a client, we're thinking of partnering with some people. And my son told me that the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria has some technology for producing chocolate. So agribusiness is the area to go because, we have to feed ourselves. Mining is another area that uses local raw materials. Quarrying, of course, goods have to be distributed after having been produced, and goods have to be stored. So storage is also going to be it's going to be a big area. And then for some businesses, you need to either integrate backwards or forwards. So for example, if you are running a catering outfit, for instance, or a fast food outfit, you're in food business. So nothing stops you from integrating backward to produce rice or whatever, which invariably is your raw material anyway. Nothing stops you from going into producing chicken and things like that, because people must eat. So that's one area. Then of course, confectionery and pastries. No matter how bad things are, people will always eat cakes and biscuits and things like that. Of course, the obvious one is healthcare. And when we're talking about healthcare, we can even look at, traditional remedies. And there are a lot of them in abundance. This is the time to look at some of those areas. And as an entrepreneur, you don't have to be a doctor. There are many entrepreneurs that run clinics, but they're not doctors. They employ doctors. Even though the oil price has gone down, the industry is oil and gas. So yeah, even in the oil sector, there are still opportunities. The refineries are not working. All the refineries in this country are not working, and it's really absurd. So I believe that anybody who can get the refineries working, that's a business opportunity now. And I'm told that those refineries, there's no big deal about fixing them. Maybe they're very old, but it's not, I mean, the refineries have been down for about 20 years. I don't think it will take 20, it was supposed to take 20 years to fix them. So those are the kind of things people need to be looking at. For instance, even in the gas sector, there's a gas master plan. People should look at what can be done with gas. We know the LNG, they've signed off Train 7, so the opportunity is there. There's a company coming up in Bayelsa State that is producing cylinders, or is going to produce cylinders. There's renewable energy, and of course, the service sector, which is our own sector, is still up and running, though it's tough, but it's still up and running. Professional services or services, including banks. I mean, banks now, you don't need to go to the bank to transact. You can do everything online. So, I mean, those are some of the opportunities that exist. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, you have to have an opportunity mindset. It's tough, but we can't fold our arms.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. That was insightful. You know, listening to the various opportunities, it looked endless. And then you were wondering, for me, I was wondering, I say, in this time, we have huge opportunities, you know, so the opportunity exists. At this time, what we need to do, like Mr. Kalada has said, is to have an opportunity mindset, research, find out what's happening, what sectors are thriving, and see how you can serve in any of the value chain, research about how that would function. Yeah, so we are seeing that there are still opportunities despite the issues before us. How can businesses navigate? Because changes will happen. The uncertainty about coronavirus, about COVID-19 is the biggest issue, the uncertainty. So the changes will happen. How can businesses navigate through the various changes by this new normal, you know, and still be able to scale up? Faith Foundation had a research, and from her findings, the research was on from startup to scale up, a review of business scale-up activities in Nigeria. The research showed that, amongst others, finance, infrastructure, entrepreneurial leadership, and innovation were critical factors that impact scalability of businesses. So in the midst of these changes, because the changes will occur, how can businesses navigate through these various changes and still be able to scale up?
Yeah, thanks for that. So businesses, not only businesses, because what we're talking about involves, it's a national issue, it's a national question, even an international question. We need to be more strategic. You know, a lot of us are engaged in, you know, thinking of just the next 2 days. We need to look at the next 5 years ahead. So for our businesses, we need to look very far ahead. You know, even in the oil and gas industry, they look 20 years ahead. It's not rocket science to try and estimate the future. Barring these hiccups, which I said, even if you had a worst case scenario in your strategy, you might have been able to see it somehow. But, you know, there are certain things that are given most times, particularly for a country like Nigeria. You know, population will increase, and therefore we have to feed ourselves. When the pandemic is over, we have to clothe ourselves. You know, Nigerians are very fashionable. So we need to be looking a bit more ahead. So, I mean, one of the things we do, especially in this pandemic period, you need to be monitoring the market daily. What are the changes that are going on? What are the changes that are going on? I mean, governors make statements, the presidential task force makes statements. What are the opportunities coming out of some of those statements? Companies are, you know, coming up with new ideas. Yeah, business associations are coming up with new ideas. So we need to monitor the market daily. What's happening to our clients or our customers? What's happening to them? Oh, there's ease of lockdown in Lagos. So how does that impact your business? Okay, there's lockdown in Port Harcourt, how does that impact your business? So we need to monitor the market daily, you know. Of course, for us to be resilient at this stage, we have to cut off all unnecessary spending. You know, this is not the time to show that you're a big man, because all our cars are parked anyway. All our cars are parked. All the things that show we are big men, they're all just lying around the place. So please, we need to cut off all unnecessary spending in our businesses. Because I'm saying this, it sounds very obvious, but you know, some Nigerians, despite COVID, they will still be rocking all over the place and things like that, but be complaining about the government. So internally, you have to really cut off all unnecessary expenses. Then look for ideas and opportunities. We've already talked about that. And please, when you're looking for ideas and opportunities, this is not the time to say that, oh, it's a top management affair or it's a board. Nobody knows where the best ideas are going to come from. It can come from a junior staff. Even if you're running, because since quite a few people here run SME, even if you're running an SME, like a restaurant, you can call yourself, say, look, oh, this is the situation, or how are we going to do it? They also want to keep their jobs. And you'll be surprised that they may come up with some solutions that can be applied. So this is not the time for resource myopia where you feel that, you know, it's a management thing. We are the ones with all the brains in the company, because that way you may be shooting yourself in the foot. Some of the organizations in the world, there's an organization in the world, Porsche, I think, the fashion group. They also make cars, but you see, they do sunglasses and things like that. At a point, I read somewhere that they give their toughest projects to people that come and do internship in their company. So we need to change our mindset. Okay, involve as many people, even your customers, in coming up with new ideas, because some of your customers may express a need. So you have to evaluate that need and don't say that, no, we don't do that. You know. But having said that, you also have to look at your capabilities. Don't, decide that you now want to make a rocket, because of course you don't have the capabilities to do that. But having come up with these ideas and all that, please don't just jump into it. Okay, some, like face masks will sell and all that, but you know, you still need to do a business plan to evaluate the ideas. So what I'm saying is that you look before you leap. So that's my own advice for companies. And like I said, whatever size of company, I mean, we deal with SMEs, and some of the SMEs now, because there's a nicer facility, they're doing business plans. But before, they would say they don't do business plans. Or sometimes people think business plans are needed because you want to go and get a loan. You need a business plan to even know for yourself what you're about to do. So we need to also plan a bit more in this phase and thereafter. So,
all right, thank you. Yeah.
Let me just conclude. One of our clients said that if Nigeria doesn't, find its feet this time, it may never.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. I can see a hand is raised. Justin Ayadu. The IT, please kindly check why his hands are raised, and then also ensure the chat room is functional. For those that can access us via Facebook and YouTube, you can also send your questions there. But admin, ensure that the chat room is enabled. We will do a poll now. The poll is ready. Just to check our readiness. So as businesses, we're happy we have the number of participants, because we are the future of Nigeria, of the world. Private and public sector run the economy, and of course with a huge support from the private sector, SMEs and all inclusive. So we run the economy, the global economy. I want to hear our readiness. How ready are we to thrive in these times? How ready are we to ensure our businesses remain going concerns and become stronger post-COVID-19? So open that, kindly launch the poll. It's about
poll is launched.
Questions, and it wouldn't take your time. Let's just take the poll, please. We have 100 participants here. If we have 80% response, that's fine. Once we have 80% response, we can launch the response. You can launch it now. You can launch the response. Can we see the response? Open that. Are you true with that?
Yes, yes, I've shared the response.
I can't see it. Just quickly. Just give me a minute to be able to assess the response. Okay. On my end, I can see the response. So, okay, here we go. You can also view it. We're very happy we have 71% of attendees in the executive cadre of the organization. That's quite interesting. And then managers, professional and technical. So your key decision makers here. So this is really relevant for you, and we're happy that you have time to attend. On the feedback on how will you rate your cash for the last 2 months? Yeah, most businesses have been hit. We have the highest, 48%, below average. So everybody's business, most people's businesses have been impacted. We have 8%. And the major, what medium is your current major source of income? Right now, we have those in the physical contact is above virtual. Is there a possibility to take your business virtually? Is there something you can improve or tweak in your process to take your business virtually? Because like we know about the Primark case, the Primark stores in the UK, they basically have all physical stores. Their sales moved drastically from $650 million in March to zero. That's because they have only physical stores. Is it possible to take your business virtually? Because in these times, like Mr. Kalada said, innovation is inevitable. You were thinking about it before, it is most critical at this time. And then also meeting up with working capital needs in the past 2 months. costs across most people. 54% of respondents are having issues doing that, and it's normal. We're happy that we still have some businesses able to meet up with their working capital needs. At least that's an encouraging figure of 40%, 13%. Okay, so areas worst hit, marketing and sales seems to be high because people, your usual market has changed. Your usual market's virtual now. Your clients' needs, so they can actually still be met virtually, depending on what the need is. Marketing and sales is a huge aspect that is worst hit. And you can imagine when marketing and sales is badly hit, what happens to business? It impacts seriously on the bottom line. But I hope that this session, you should be able to pick some strategies you can actually adopt. And for those that have been able to assess government intervention, wow, only one respondent has been able to assess it. 97% of the respondents have not been able to assess government intervention. What is the challenge? Is it knowledge or is it fatigue? Because you don't believe in what the government is doing, or not just working, you know? So you can have your questions coming. Like I said, you can have your questions sent to us via our channels, the Facebook, YouTube, while the chat room is still being sorted out here. But this tells us that we need to address some specific questions. For us to have a figure as high as 97% saying, oh, for loans, we can assess it. There's a COVID-19 fund. Is that loan, is that fund being assessed? Is it accessible or is it knowledge gap? All right, thank you very much for the feedback on the poll. There's a question, before we continue, let me just take that question. Please, we really need to have your questions coming. There's a question from YouTube, and how can businesses remain focused on their core objectives while adapting to the coronavirus pandemic impacts? We've talked about it a bit, but maybe if you could just throw a stronger light on in responding to this question. How can businesses remain focused on their core objectives while adapting to the coronavirus pandemic impacts? Kalada.
Okay. In situations of uncertainty, there has to be some flexibility. So in attempting to answer your question, if your sales are declining, then you have to look at the engine drivers I talked about, like you need to have new products, even if it's within your scope, since you want to remain focused in your business. Or is it new markets? Or is it new customers? Or even new areas of operation? But of course, I don't know if it's stated as industry, but you know, you have to go into e-commerce. You need to find the best way to reach your customers. Okay, but having said that, there has to be some flexibility. This is not the time to say that, look, this is my area and I must stick to it, because I talked about the areas of opportunities, but there are some areas that are really badly hit. But even in those areas, you can still rethink. And that's why we're saying that it's about strategy, it's about thinking, it's about involving people beyond management in coming up with solutions. For instance, the airlines are badly hit, so they didn't come up in this list, because I got this list from financial derivatives, Bismarck Rewane. So aviation industry is not in the area of opportunities, but Ethiopian Airlines have gone into cargo, more or less full-time cargo business to remain in business. So they're focusing on their airline business, but they've tweaked it a bit. They're focusing on airlines because, you know, goods still have to move, But human beings have been told not to move around. So I don't know if I've addressed your issues. It's a question of thinking, and like I said, not thinking alone, because the challenge of most of the SMEs, most of us in that space, is that we want to solve all the problems alone. Please involve your staff in coming up with new ideas. I don't think it's the MD of Ethiopia that Ethiopian Airlines that came up with that idea that, hey, let's focus on cargo. So you need to be having ongoing conversations with your staff. For instance, in our own organization, we have conversations about how we're going to handle this situation every week. We don't wait for monthly meetings or for strategy sessions or whatever. And in those meetings, you have to come back, you have to come with solutions. It's not that you were thinking of something. Don't come and tell us you're thinking of something. You have to tell us that you think this can work, and then let's try it. So you need to be having conversations with your staff around the challenges. Don't try and solve it alone. Because a lot of us, we suffer from resource myopia, where you think that, well, that guy doesn't know anything. Graduates of today, what do they know? They know a lot. They've been through the 4 walls of a university. It's not their fault. It's the system that is not training them well. But if you take them into your organization and train them very well, a lot of them excel. So you need to get your staff thinking and thinking innovatively. I mean, these days, when you want to do things online, you want to catch up on IT and all those areas, it's the young people that know IT. So for instance, the other day I was having a webinar on Sunday, and then all of a sudden I was having issues, and my son came into the room and said, Daddy, you're using 3G now. Maybe that's why it's not functioning well. So please tap into the young people in your organization. They know a lot more than you think they do. Most of the times when you see them playing with their phones and all that, it's not all of them that are listening to music. Some of them are doing research and they're just checking things online. The other day, a couple of months ago, I asked my daughter, you don't read newspapers? She laughed at me and sent me Business Day online, because I was expecting her to be reading physical newspapers. But the lady subscribes to Business Day online. So a lot of times when they're looking at their phones, they're doing very serious things. Don't always assume that they're just listening to music or gossiping. Right. So in summary, engage your staff in thinking out solutions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Tap into the young people in your organization. That came out very strong. There's resource in people around you. There's a huge resource. Yeah, we had talked about the primary issue and how businesses need to go online, need to be virtual. I don't know if we'll be overfogging this, but for businesses that before the crisis, operations were basically offline and they were just caught unawares, how can they leverage technology right now? Somebody from the product example is there. Right now, their sales are down. Somebody from the cocoa markets, the popular cocoa markets in River State, talked about his shop being locked down, and he's just wondering, how will he generate income? His shop is currently locked down, and in River State, there's a lockdown, so you can't even access it, even if somebody places a demand. What step can they take immediately to leverage technology and come out of that situation that they found themselves in? Because right now, they are not making any income.
Some situations are tough. And like we said, it's not as easy to thrive. But of course, they can't move around. That is the challenge. It's a major challenge. But most of them, they need to use their phones for business more. They need to talk, like as I said earlier on, you need to be talking to your customers, even if you're on lockdown. And it's not that easy. But I mean, since there's lockdown, your customer is not moving around, so they just have to bear with the times. But once this lockdown is over, they need to be engaging more with their phones. They need to be on the internet. And all these things are not rocket science. You know, I was talking to someone some years ago, and he was holding a senior position somewhere. And I told him that, look, you need to be engaging with your contemporaries in other parts of the world, you know, through the internet. He told me he doesn't have an email address. So I created one there and then for him, a Yahoo address. So maybe that could also be a business opportunity, teaching all those guys how to use the internet and WhatsApp for business. Okay, the Uber model is a model where, you know, phones are being used for business. You know, you just click and then you get a cab at your doorstep. So people really need to they need to leverage on the internet. The internet has come to stay. And it's, I believe we're in a situation where almost everybody, I don't see the people that have choice. So, you know, doctors, name it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. They need to be digitally intelligent. It coming out very strong. So that opportunity also, a training on, you know, being digitally smart. And there's a question, you know, following your recommendation, there's a question from YouTube, and the chat room has been enabled, so you can send in your questions on the chat room. And then I will come to Mr. Justice Anyadu. Your hands have been up for a while. If you still want to notify us about something, you can keep it up, but if you're fine now, you can put it down. Mr. Justice Anyadu. All right, so how can an e-commerce business, this is a question from Facebook. How can an e-commerce business thrive in this era when cyber theft makes it difficult to decipher real clients, partners? Shall I come back with that?
Yeah, no. I've understood you. Well, these are the challenges. You know, on Sunday, I did a training on solutions mindset. So we have to look for a way. We have to look for a way around it. Even Zoom has issues, but we're using it. And even Zoom itself is trying to improve, you know, its security issues. So I would rather, I mean, if I need to go into e-commerce, I would rather move ahead and then deal with the issues as they come. And I would expect that if you're going into e-commerce, your first port of call should be your existing customers. That should be your first port of call. Yeah, the security issues will be there because it's an industry in itself. I mean, a friend of mine who is into IT business told me that these hackers rejoice when they break into some systems. Like they actually, you know, drink champagne and they're very happy. So for some people, that's their means of livelihood. So we can't decide because of that, we're not going to get involved in e-commerce. And besides, there's cyber insurance. So there are ways to mitigate that risk because there'll be risk in everything you're trying to do. So there's cyber insurance if you need to mitigate that risk. So the issue is identifying the risk and mitigating the risks. And one of the ways to mitigate those risks is to take up cyber insurance.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. I will unmute Mr. Joseph, Mr. Justin, just for him to speak. His hand has been up for a long while. Mr. Justin, please. Mr. Justin? Mr. Justin Ayedewu? All right, so it's fine. Now, another question. In this time of the pandemic, we hear a lot of reaching out, helping people. For some persons, they don't have any means of livelihood right now. And so people are reaching out, people are helping, and we're all encouraged to reach out to help. There's a question that says, how can I level up on my business this period of COVID-19 lockdown and still be able to help people?
Well, that's a very interesting question because I discussed with my old friend about a week ago. So it's a very interesting question. And he said that, look, when COVID started, when people approach him, he gives them 25,000. They approach him, he gives them 15,000. And then one day, as funds, the demands were getting very high. So one day, somebody asked him for help, and he was asking the wife that, I can't give this kind of man 5,000. It would be like an insult to him. The wife said, look, just give, if that's what you can afford, give the man the 5,000. You'll be shocked that he'll be very grateful. Of course, my friend sent the man 5,000, and the man thanked him and even prayed for him. So what I'm trying to say in essence is do what you can. I mean, if you can't help, just tell the person no. Because some people, in Nigeria, some people just play games. That's what they're using their phone for. Instead of them to be productive, they're using their phone to beg all over the place. You can't be encouraging that too much, because like we said earlier on, we have to cut off unnecessary expenses, because for quite a lot of us, it will get to a point where we don't know where the next income is coming from. If some of us have not reached there from the poll, people are having cash flow issues, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So don't please people at your own expense. A lot of Nigerians push you to the wall, but for me, call me whatever you like. If I can't help you, I tell you bluntly. We need to get to the position where we do that, because one day I asked one of my relations. She said that man, he has a gum hand. It's very difficult to get things from him. I said, you must have been begging him. That's why you know. How do you know? She said, yes, she begged him. Why are people begging all over the place? Everybody has issues this time. And I can also tell you the story of another friend who, when the new government came in 2015, for 1 month, for the first 6 months, he told people that were begging him that, there are no ministers in place. Then after the ministers came in place, he said, we need to see the policy direction of government. So he used that to escape from some of the beggars for 1 year. So we need to be creative in that angle. I mean, look, some people, if you don't help them, somebody else will help them.
Yeah. So I think the main thing, do what you can do.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to help. Do what you can do and leave that. Just like the story Mr. Kalada gave, 9,000 was helpful to somebody, and truly, at this time, it really is. So we had talked about chat room is open now. So if you have questions, I can see 2 hands raised. If you have questions, put it on the chat room. If you have any query to make, also on the chat room. We had talked about collaborations, because collaborations, looking at various sectors that are once hit and those not badly hit, there's a likelihood of saying, okay, so how can we partner to ensure I'm supporting you one area or the other? I'm using my skill, we're trying to synergize, we're trying to ensure that we use our strengths and we leverage on our strengths and build our business. So collaborations and partnerships have been encouraged. Now, how exactly do collaborations and partnerships work, especially for businesses that should be competing? How should partnerships work? Because partnerships is a good way.
Yeah, I think we can share facilities. Because even as basic as Zoom is, I mean, we don't use it all the time. So we can, just like people do timeshare with planes, we can do timeshare with a lot of the things we use for online, so that when we're not using them, they're not idle. That is one suggestion. So we can share facilities. We can also collaborate on what I call the big jobs. Okay, we're hoping that they will still be coming. The economy and companies are adjusting now, but so we can collaborate on jobs. But I always tell people that there has to be integrity and trust, because in the past we've had experience. Though now we have zeroed down on our our partners to a large extent. But in the past, we had situations where we collaborated on jobs, and our fellow, in fact, one of the competitors, so to say, that were involved in the job, her first slide was advertising her company, and we invited her to come and train. That's not right, And then another one went around to our client and said, look, because they had also been marketing that client, he went around to the client and said, look, I've been marketing you since, so now you gave this job to this guy, and he came to call me. But all those feedbacks come back to us, and of course we'll drop those people. So people, as especially as professionals, we need to show more integrity so that we can trust each other and help each other to succeed. The final thing I want to talk about is sharing information. You know, some of us have been discussing that are in the same profession. We have been discussing that, how are you doing, or how are you managing, and all that. Last week, I engaged with one of my close friends who were in the same business, and I told him that we are working full blast as much as possible online. We are not saying that we are taking break or whatever. As much as we can do, we resume work like everybody, and everybody answers present through Skype. Everybody answers present that I'm at work, and of course, we give people targets to deliver every week. So that was experience sharing. We can share information about how we are coping. Okay, vendors are not coming around and all that anymore. So, okay, some of us are still old school, so we're reading physical papers. But so we switched to online business day. My daughter sends me online business day. So we can also share information. I think those are some of the areas where we can collaborate. And of course, if we have to let staff go, we can also engage. We can look for ways to engage them, because some of them will still need their services, but we can't afford their services on a monthly basis. We can't afford to pay them monthly salary. So we engage them as on a needs basis. So it's really, well, like I said, it's up to us to show more integrity, because you will agree with me that it's not right for me to call my competitor to come and help me train, and then the first thing she does is to advertise her company. In fact, the client was indirectly telling me that I was stupid, because he was saying that, you're a very nice man. You mean you invited this lady who competed with you for the job to come and train, to come and work with you on the train. So let's respect friendships. Let's respect ourselves as professionals.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that also tells that for you to be able to identify a suitable partner, you should have a large network. So it's important to build your network so that you can actually partner with. You have a pool of likely partners to collaborate with, and integrity is important, as you have said. Now, when we talk about working from home, working with staff, having staff still provide some kind of service, even at this time, how do leaders keep their team focused and productive during uncertain times? Because it's fundamental that the team is motivated and they are still able to deliver. So how do leaders keep their team focused?
Okay, thanks. The first, I mentioned a while ago that you need to involve your staff more. This is not the time where you try to do everything yourself. You are the managing director, you are the finance manager, you are the marketing manager. You have to share responsibility. So you need to operate a system of delegated responsibility. Okay, delegate as much of the work as possible. In fact, somebody once told me that I delegate too much, and I said, MD stands for maximum delegation. Okay, so you need to run a system of delegated responsibility. Support your staff, okay, and provide backup. So, every now and then ask them how they're faring, not only on the job, but, on COVID issues, how are they faring, how are they affected? I mean, sometimes I ask them how they're enjoying being teachers. You have to ask them how they're enjoying being teachers, because some of the staff now are involved in being teachers since their children are doing online classes. So you have to provide support. Then my advice is that, irrespective, ensure that marketing is going on. So you need to have meetings where people say which client they've spoken to, even if it's to ask the client, how are you? Even if it's to ask the client, how are you? So marketing must be going on. You never know which one is going to work. Okay, except you're not producing. Even if you're not producing, maybe it's a temporary closure. You still have to tell your clients that this is my situation. I'm still coming back into business in a week's time, in a month's time, or whatever. So one thing you mustn't stop doing is marketing. somebody defined the strategy as, even if you are running out of ammunition, you still keep on firing so that the enemy doesn't know that you are running out of ammunition. The only challenge I have with that strategy is that the ammunition will run out eventually. Then you have to continue whatever, like the banks are doing, you have to continue rendering services so far they're not constrained by the present situation. So people need money, they must withdraw money, and so on and so forth. So for those of us that can still render services, we have to keep on rendering those services, especially if you can do them online. And like I said, you have to keep close to your customers. Then you have to have strategy meetings. Okay, not strategy meetings in theory. You have to have real strategy meetings where you're looking at how to deal with the present situation. How are we going to be post-COVID? Okay, so you have to struggle to survive now, but you have to try and be strong after COVID. And then you have to also manage your stakeholders, your directors, your customers, your suppliers. We have to keep on talking to each other and keep on encouraging each other. Sometimes, we are on lockdown. I think some of you are not on lockdown, but in Paraguay here, we're on lockdown. So sometimes it's as basic as asking people, are you keeping fit? Because, this sitting down in the house from morning to night is not good. So I ask people, are you keeping fit? And I direct them to YouTube to go and look for exercises and things like that. And of course, you have to, like I said, you have to show some empathy to their plight. Some of them will have issues and all that. So you have to show some empathy. But most importantly, at this stage of time, even if you have to let staff go, you have to do it in as nice a way as possible. You have to keep them motivated so that they don't feel it's the end of the world. Because some of them will say, the typical complaint is that man, after I put in all my best for him, see here, just let me go. So you have to, make sure that you tell him that, well, the situation is not. And then if you can help him get a job elsewhere, which is difficult, or you can use his services, because sometimes we're letting people go because we can't pay them monthly. But anytime we need their services, we call them. And sometimes it may even be better for them because they can now do other things.
Other things, yeah. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. I can see the chat room doesn't seem to be open for participants. It was supposed to be, but I can see it's not still functional. Mr. Justin's raised OC Michael and Vic, so I will take you in turns. I will unmute you and have you speak. So I'm going to unmute Mr. Justin at this time. So Justin, please, can you speak? Okay,
good evening all. Thank you, Mr. Kalada, for that wonderful lecture on surviving this harsh time. So my question is, all these small and medium scale enterprises, they are a function of the economy, which is equally the national economy, which is equally the function of the global economy. Now, if every firm should cut down on their expenses and maybe go virtual, that there are the businesses that are enjoying the services of those cut down will suffer. Now, my question is, what will be the fate of the global economy if every firm should go virtual or cut down on its costs to survive? So what will be the fate of the global economy, which is equally a function of those small and medium scale enterprises? Thank you.
Okay. It's a good question, and that's why I'm saying that everybody has to be strategic. I talked about, it's not everybody that has gone virtual. I talked about people that are using motorbikes to render their services. So whatever it is, you have to find a way to be innovative. So if it's a question of, instead of the customer coming to you, you go to the customer, then you go to the customer. But the main point I'm trying to make is that it's no longer business as usual, number one. And then number two, the reality is that some businesses will be challenged. So take, for example, the entertainment Even burials. My friend was buried the other day. Just the children, they showed us virtually. Okay, so even burials. But I'm sure the funeral organizers still end their income. So there are some businesses that will definitely be a challenge, like entertainment business. So if you're in the entertainment business, of course, if you're in the entertainment business, you sell food and all that at your place. So you may want to look at backward integration, maybe to start producing food. Because like I said, one of the key things is that we need to feed ourselves. We need to feed ourselves, and it's the way, that's the way it is. I mean, you may just have to leave that your business if it has declined. You know, there are some businesses like when we're growing up now, we used to see coal. Now we used to see chimneys where coal was providing electricity at Ijora, but the Ijora station now is now a monument. So please, if the cheese has moved in your industry, you have to move. I use the example of a very big agricultural company that moved into computers. So please, let's not be emotional about this. We have to a large extent be rational about this. If we try as much as possible to keep our business going and it's not working, then we have to do a reassessment.
Yeah. That's very true. You know, just to add to what Mr. Kalada said, it has to be the mindset. So our mind is set on the way things are done now. But the truth is that things have changed. That's just the truth. So we have to awaken to this truth. Like he also talked about the supply value chain. You can look at sectors that could thrive, that are thriving, and see in what area in the supply value chain can we function? Can we meet a demand? Because the truth is that it has changed. So even if you stay back and sulk and become emotional, you can change it because it has changed. So we just have to ensure that we're not sitting down and mourning the change, but we're quickly moving to ensure that the change does not cripple us and does not, impact us so negatively that. So for some persons, even solutional issues like as far as depression is coming in because of this situation. So it is not what happens that matters, but what you do with it. Mindset change is very important. All right, so I will unmute Osi Michael also. He wants to say something. His hands are up. Osi Michael, please, can you speak?
Okay, before Osi Michael speaks, okay, let me just also illustrate another story. Okay. Somebody in charge of innovation in a bank went to a meeting one day and said that, our business can go extinct. They nearly cut her neck off. But she was saying something, because if everybody, you can see the bank that closed down so many branches, if everybody is dealing online, do we need so much physical structures? So these are the realities. We have to be flexible to some extent. I, as a person, I'm also impacted. We run schools. We don't know whether we're in second term or third term, but we're doing virtual classes. But we'll not ask for fees. So when I'm trying to say, I'm not talking only for other people, from other people's to other people's detriment. I'm also impacted in some of the businesses that I'm involved in.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so Osi Michael, please speak.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Kalada. Thank you very much for this wonderful.
Yes, please.
Who muted him now?
You're muted. Mute yourself. I had unmuted you. Okay, so Osi Michael, are you speaking?
Yeah, thank you. I can hear you now. Good afternoon, Mr. Kalada.
Good afternoon.
And I want to say thank you, Hansen, for such a well-coordinated program. I'm actually enjoying myself and learning so much. My question is a little bit personalized, and it has to do with the area of the service industry, just like you are into. I heard the genesis and the story of your boss, that's Mr. Kalada, on how he started several years ago, and I'm just at that level. So my question is this: what strategic ways should one employ to get to where you are right now, to build the caliber of clientele that you have, as observed from the pool that we had a moment ago? Almost 70-something% of the participants here are chief executives, and that's very impressive. And by the nature of the business I do, those are the kind of people I ought to be meeting. So how do I work my way to building the prospect, my prospect bank, and the caliber of people at that level? Thank you.
Okay. Osi Michael is my friend. You pay me for this one. You come and see me and pay me. Anyway, on a serious note, like I said, it's hard work, but the opportunities all the time. You know, one day I was on the flight, and I read one magazine, and it said the opportunities everywhere. And I said, this is a very interesting revelation. So you need to research the market. It's not going to be easy, but you need to research the market. I know you're into customer service sector, and that is a need, because so many people do it badly. So many people do it badly. You know, I mean, I went into a store once where they sell Bang & Olufsen sets, and you know, they wouldn't talk to me. But by the time I went to the bank and came back with a draft, this was a long time ago, the people that wouldn't talk to me started greeting me. So it's, like I said, you need to have a strategy. It's not that the strategy is going to work 100%, but there has to be some strategic thinking. And like I said, don't do it alone. You know, this is the time to have, what I call it, a think tank or whatever. You need to talk to people. I know we've had conversations in the past, but after some time you stop the conversation. So we have to keep the conversations going, because it's in everybody's interest for all of us to survive. So we have to keep the conversations going. You know, tap into your network. I know you're a very experienced person, but you need to key into some of the niches. You know, starting is always difficult. So let's keep the conversations going. You have my details. So we'll talk a lot more.
Yeah, so let's keep the conversation going. We'll be wrapping up, so we're watching the time, but we'll have to keep this conversation going. I'll call on Victor Momodu to speak at this time. Can you speak at this time, Victor?
I'm not seeing his mic. I'm only seeing his hand.
Yeah, I can't see his mic anymore.
So let's move to the next person.
Yeah, then Ade Ifezua, her hands up. Do you still want to speak?
No, she's put it down.
Well, yeah.
Or it's been addressed?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I want to say thank you. Hello?
Yes.
Hello, can I speak now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I really do appreciate the lecture. But I have gone through some trainings and listening to speakers, and I found out that it's always so easy for us to compare Nigeria to what is happening outside the country. If you look at the pool that we have done right here on this chat group, you will see that to access even loan is very difficult for more than 80% of the participants in this forum, which is telling you already that business, to start up a new business or maintain existing business, stand a chance of stagnation. Then when you add the issue of power to it, you add power. I don't even want to talk about insecurity. And now we are fighting this pandemic that just suddenly happened. How easy is it for somebody that is just coming up to to you know, to face all these challenges and remain afloat, when even those that are already in the business is not easy, quite difficult. Even right now, they are doing online school, learning in school, but they still need money because they need to pay their staffs, and the school fees have even pay probably part of the school fees or whatever. So how looking at the pandemic, and you want to, let me say, agriculture. You talked about starch. If I say, okay, I want to go into agriculture now and see how I can produce starch, and there is no money in this circulation right now, how do you now get loan? How do you surmount all the other challenges and then start up this new business at this point in time?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. Okay, so Mr. Kalada, I know you have addressed some, but you can speak to this.
Okay. Yeah, Adi, I empathize with you, and I'm sure a lot of people here have been through that route. You know, an entrepreneur is an adventurer. Even as recently as about 2017, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Hansen, we actually had a business that failed, but I'm here today talking. You know, so it's daunting, but for example, the NISA facility, we actually made inquiries even ahead, because me too, I only know about one person that have accessed it. So I said, look, let's make some inquiries to see if there are people that have accessed it. And we spoke with NISA, and they said that they're disbursing. So we're going to take them up on that challenge. So if anybody needs to, and that's why we included it in the poll, if anybody needs to approach those people, we're willing to help to see whether what they're saying is correct. The other thing also, mind you, is just that is also difficult. You know, when you're starting a business, you must have some of your money too. You know, what happens in Nigeria is that a lot of people who are startups, they want people to finance everything, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, when I started the business, I started with, I think, about 5,000 naira, but that money was to pay my rent because I was in official quarters, so I needed somewhere to operate from. So I had a car that I dedicated to the business. So we all started on some shoestring budget. You get my point? But you have to be ready to pay the price. I mean, one of the prices I paid was that, you know, I started to gray in my 40s. So that's part of the price. And then you have to think, because like I said, when you're starting a business, the loan is not what you need most. You have to have some of your money to put in. And now it's even easier because you can operate virtually. In our own time, you have to have a physical office. So in my search for an office, I bumped into an older friend who gave me office space. But we were in the same business. And anytime his clients visited him, he would introduce me as his employee. But I went through it. I took it because I didn't have a choice. And when he engaged me in an assignment, I did all the work. And I thought that at least this man will give me 50% of the fee. He gave me 10% of the fee. But I did all the work, but I took it. So we have to pay the price. Let's put it that way. And like I said, I'm willing to, you know, I mean, one of the things I do is I try to encourage entrepreneurs. And that's one of the things I did when I was involved in Faith Foundation, mentoring people and things. So I know it's not easy to go through these difficulties. So that's why I said people need support systems. People need to be talking to people, because I've spoken to people. I mean, one day somebody approached me to be her mentor. And the first few sentences she made, I told her I can't mentor her. She said, I can't abandon her like that, because for each statement of hope I gave her, she gave me a negative statement. You see, entrepreneurs, to some extent, you have to be positive. So I know it's difficult to get loan. It's difficult to have power. They say, but there's renewable energy business. You know, there's solar energy. There are ways you can go about it. You know, you can, I mean, there's some people that are financing solar power, or you can share facilities. I've just given you the example of when I started. I didn't have an office. I was, you know, a friend offered me his office, a much older friend, but he still took advantage of me. Anytime people came to visit him, you say, meet my consultant, Mr. Kalada. But he wasn't paying me any salary at all. He wasn't paying me 1 naira itself.
All right, thank you very much. I see 2 hands still raised. Yeah, I can see 2 hands still raised, but we'll just ask 2 questions and then we'll go to those hands raised. Yeah, so there are various stakeholders in ensuring justice thrive. So everyone has to play their role. What are the roles? Who are the stakeholders and what are their roles? We've heard about how businesses are actually struggling, and you have given some a ray of hope that one has to keep it, be committed, sacrifice, pay the price. Who are the other stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders globally, to ensure that business thrive, and what are their roles?
Yeah, the number one stakeholders are the people in your company, your employees. And like I said, at this point in time, we need them to think out solutions. It's not only the MD that can think all the solutions that are required at this point in time. Okay, I'll give a typical example. A couple of years ago in the 90s, I was running an oil service company with my late friend. And just like Adi is saying, we were running on a shoestring. Anytime we had a contract, we look for money. That was the era of finance houses. So we had exhausted our credit with the finance houses. We were owing many finance houses. And we just called a meeting because we had an order that we had to fulfill within about a week, and we didn't have any money. So we called all the staff and said, look, this is the problem on ground, though. It was the secretary that came up with the solution. The secretary said, yes, that somebody in her church is always warning her that he's into money lending business. So the following day she came, it wasn't like 1 week later. The following day she came with the money, cash. That was the era of cash. She came with the cash wrapped in newspaper to the office, and we fulfilled our contract. So people, your employees, are critical. So especially in thinking out solutions to the problems that this pandemic crisis is causing. Of course, your clients or your customers, and you have to see them as your partners, because just as you are having issues, your clients and customers are also having issues. So you can jointly solve your problems while you're solving their own problems. I mean, for some of them, you may have to render free service now until things are better, or make some concessions and things like that. So, and of course, you can get referrals from them at this point in time if you render a good service. Your suppliers are also important. They have to keep their engines running so that you can remain in business. Okay, and your suppliers also include your internet service providers. We don't want all these people that call themselves beautiful names, and then when you now want to do virtual meeting, the thing is not working. Your competitors, like I said, this is the era where we have to cooperate, because we have to keep our industry going. Government is also a major stakeholder. Government, they need to be our friends at this time. When it's time to collect taxes, as if we're quarreling. We're not quarreling. The truth of the matter is that, a lot of people are reluctant to pay tax because there's no value. Just like Adi said, we provide electricity for ourselves. We provide water, we provide everything for ourselves. So what are we paying tax for? For people to just go and junket. So, and then, like I said, government has to train people in the research institutes to market. I mean, when you go to the research institute, sometimes they even drive you away. I went to a research institute. It was so hard to see the DG. We hold SME fora. I invited them. I said, don't pay, just come. She didn't come. When I met her one day in Abuja at an SME forum in Abuja, I said, madam, why now? She said they didn't have budget. Every time they're always talking about budget. You're saying something is free. What is the budget inside it? Because they want to collect extra code and collect money. People have to sacrifice for the nation. And a lot of people are. So let's all jointly sacrifice. She said there's no budget. So it means there's no money to be chopped or something like that. And they need to be business focused, because you see, a lot of times government is suspicious of businessmen. But you can't always be suspicious of businessmen. We're all trying. In fact, sometimes it's the entrepreneurs that are keeping the economy going. For 6 months, there were no ministers. So who was keeping the country going? Who was keeping the country going? It was the businessmen. In other parts of the world, they even call the prime minister of the country, calls businessmen once in a while just to come and drink tea with him. I met somebody once and said, we need to talk with our governor. He said, I have to make a case. What case? What case? I said, we're creating jobs in this state. Even if governor should call us to drink tea with him, for even helping him to create employment. Government creates employment on paper. We are the ones creating employment. So we need to be better. And then you give us that enabling environment. For instance, I know that in the 80s, there was an Economic Stabilization Act I'm still waiting from an act from the current National Assembly, something like an economic stimulus package or something to do with reactivating the economy, not reducing budget. When you reduce budget, you want to kill all of us. It's okay. That's the reality. We have to reduce budget. But how are we going to stimulate the economy? So we need an economic stimulus package or something like that. It's not, the palliatives are just coming in different directions. It needs to be coordinated. So, and of course, we have the business associations. The organized private sector has to do a lot more advocacy. I know as a young consultant, I went for budget sessions. I don't know whether they still call us for budget. I went for pre-budget session. So they call us for meetings to discuss their inputs into the budget. Now nobody calls us. I don't know, maybe people can say they've been called for pre-budget sessions recent. So they have to do a lot more advocacy. And who are they giving these loans to if they're not channeling it through the business associations? Because the business associations, it's their members that need these facilities. So what database, on what basis is government giving this money to people? Are they just coming from anywhere and saying they're businessmen? Because if the Chamber of Commerce recommends you, I'm sure they won't recommend a crook or a quack. Okay, and people that belong, like I said, when I was running this oil service company with my late friend, any country we wanted to do business with, the first port of call was the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so we need the organized private sector has to do a lot more advocacy. It's not a question of when they remember us once in a while, they appoint us to one committee, and after some time you're asking what is the result of the committee. They're not even listening to the committee. So so those are the 6 ones I want to talk about. So what I'm saying we should all see ourselves as partners. There's nobody, when you suspect somebody, you invariably do something suspicious. So who is suspecting who? You say businessman is crooked. Everybody in the private sector, they're all honest. Is everybody in the public sector honest? Every day we are hearing stories. So why do you say businessmen are crooked and then you people are as angels?
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalada. You say it's important for us to know who these various stakeholders are so that we can actually leverage. And Mr. Kalada has thrown a lot of light on it. We all have our various roles, really. And I'm happy that you could also speak to the government. You could also speak to the nice private sector. Yeah, advocacy is fundamental, it's key. Now somebody said, if COVID-19 does not change Nigeria, then it means that we need to do something. We need to start thinking differently as a people. And we have heard the role of the various stakeholders. Leverage. Play your own parts and leverage. Government person, you are a public servant today. You are the government, really. It's not an emblem. It's the people that make the government what it is. So you, on that seat, ensure that you're playing that role so that economies will thrive, because it will stick around. The health sector has been hit today, and everybody is impacted. There's the poet, on channels. I think he says, when you hear the gong, when you hear the forest is burning, let you not say it doesn't concern him. So when the drum sounds here, it will impact everybody, but the public and the private sector. So we have our key roles to play. We should ensure we're playing those roles. Mr. Kalada, question for you as regards the government. In addition to that question, you can also talk about policies that the government can come up with to support SMEs and other sectors. And then the question is, what is needed to get public sector fit for purpose at all levels to ensure ease of doing business and also reposition the different states and regions, explore market advantages and government support programs? Yeah, so what is needed to get the public sector fit for purpose at all levels to ensure ease of doing business and also reposition the different states and regions to explore market advantages? Also discussing the kind of role the government should play to support SMEs, given the pandemic and then also other sectors?
Yeah, I think, well, I can't harp on that any further than that. You know, we need to get the research institutes commercially oriented. You know, in fact, I think about there are two research. There's research institutes in almost every city. I don't know how they came about that, but there's research institutes in almost every city. There's Leather Research Institute, and it is research and development that makes nations great. There's Leather Research Institute in Zaria. There's NIFO, Nigerian Forestry. There's research institute on everything, but you know, like I said, I mean, they're not commercially oriented. And then, you know, any small money they make, they say they should send their money to TSA. I think some people should be exempted from this TSA of the thing so that they can go. There's Nigerian Stored Products Research Institute. They come up with things, and also the private sector also has to engage them, because some people go there and they say, no, their technology is very low. It's for you to go and bring the technology up. But there, some years ago, a company was accused of going to one of our research institutes, getting the technology and taking it abroad and producing it and exporting to us in Nigeria. So they need to get us, you know, they as a policy have to buy made in Nigeria goods, you know, but they pay a lot of lip service to it and start making trouble with people that are producing things in Nigeria. The health system, there's no gainsaying that it needs a total review. I mean, I'm sure some of you have seen the photograph of the very nice buildings we put up for EFCC and all those agencies, and then the hospitals are looking like already mortuaries or whatever. So we need to, you know, the Health Systems Act has to be looked at. So everything has to be taken in context. It's not you just take one thing, vaccine, and you start running away with it, and you're in such a terrible hurry to implement the vaccine, when we need to look at our health system. Good enough, nobody can go abroad this time. So all of us were here.
Exactly.
Okay. And like I said, even the review of the health system has to take tradomedicine into consideration. I had ringworm for about a year and a half. Penicillin couldn't cure it because that was the only antibiotic then. But my barber came to the house one day and saw it and said, what is this thing? The leaf he used to cure my ringworm was in our compound. He didn't go far. He didn't go and buy it. It was in our compound. And he cured the ringworm. He put it on the ringworm, squeezed the juice of that leaf on the ringworm in the evening. By the following morning, it was gone permanently. Not that it came back. With penicillin, it was going and coming back. So we need to look at tradomedicine too. Okay. So research and development has to be encouraged. We've tried to engage with, for example, Ministry of Science and Technology. We're not even interested in listening to us. It is one of our clients who listen to us when we're talking about promoting local research. And then the oil and gas industry. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has a 10-year roadmap. And then the public sector, why can't other public sector organizations have it? You know, instead of quarreling with us and all those kind of things, let them create an enabling environment for us. Then we need to look at the PENCOM Act, because I believe that now as people are losing jobs and everything like that, I don't see why, you know, you should be waiting for your pension when you're 50 or 60 or whatever. I think there should be some modification to it so that in this kind of situation, people can get a bit of their pension, because there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in pensions. So maybe that will also help people, because we have to look inward. I was surprised the other day, they said they've gone to Madagascar and they paid $170,000 for the drugs. Unfortunately, in social media these days, we don't know what to believe. But $170,000 translated to 70 million naira. And I can assure you that the cure for this COVID thing is in Nigeria. Nobody wants to listen to Iwu. All the people that have come, they're not listening to them because they want to go to Madagascar. And Madagascar, I'm sure, is just one small island. I don't think they're up to 2 million people. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think on that point, I think really they need to provide us enabling environment. And all these things that they said, we've made a note of it: reduction of interest rate from 9% to 5%, restructuring of loans. We're going to look into some of these things. Then they say there's 50 billion facility to households and business affected by COVID by NASA. Nobody here has had access to it, or maybe people didn't apply. Then there's 100 billion naira for the health sector, 1 trillion for agri and manufacturing sector. Where is the money? Where is the money? You know, the potential for Nigeria to be great, we have been talking about it for a very long time. This is the time because, like I said, one of my friends said, and Dudu reminded me, he said that if Nigeria doesn't change now, we should just forget about it.
All right, thank you so much. We're running out of time, so we really need to run. We have some questions, some hands raised. Unfortunately, we can't take you, Victor Mamudu. We can't see the icon for unmuting. JC Lopez, we would like to hear from you at this time. So I'm unmuting you. JC Lopez, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is JC Lopez. I want to especially appreciate one of my mentors and someone I admire so much, the person of JC Senator Apiafi, Kalada. So I got to bless you, and I really appreciate this time. I'm in the aviation and tourism sector, and I also run an SME in that line too, and also in transport and logistics. We are more among the industry badly hit with this new development of the COVID-19. The impact is so much that for the past 2 months, virtually we've not been able to do any business as regarding visa, tourism, and transport in general as per aviation. Then even the logistics per se is also not being up and running. So I want to, I will need more advice as per in this new order, how to survive these trying times and even post-COVID. And also I would be very happy if I have an express, either visual, permit to speak with you one-on-one, maybe after the meeting or any other day that is more convenient to you, because I'll need a lot of advice from you, sir.
All right, thank you, Jessica Lopez. Sounds like Jennifer Lopez, huh? All right, Kalada.
Yeah, maybe it's a relation to Jennifer Lopez. Okay, yeah, we can discuss after. You know how to reach me. But those are the realities we're talking about. So you really need to look in a different direction, because even if the economy, when the economy opens up and eases up a bit on lockdown and all that, I believe there's still going to be a lot of social distancing. But logistics, obviously, we need to move things around once this, closure of the borders of states goes by. So you need to hang in there at least for the logistics aspect of it, and then see if goods are not moving in such state. Are there no opportunities to move goods within the state? Where are you based?
Okay, let me mute him.
I'm based in Port Harcourt.
Oh, you're based in Port Harcourt. No, we're in lockdown now. Wait for after the lockdown. Wait for after the lockdown.
Oh, okay, sir.
Hold on. Sorry, hold on, Mr. Kalada.
No problem, they understand the sign language. So let's talk about it. But you see, the thing is that, I attended a training many years ago, and they said from survival to success. And the main thesis of the training was that it's your right side of the brain that will save you. That's the creative side. So a lot of us have to activate the creative sides of our brains. Let's think out of the box, as they say. Like I said, let's talk to people. Like I said, I keep on saying that you'll be surprised at the amount of information young people have. When you see them walking around with their phones, some of them are doing serious things. They listen to music quite all right, but they do all their research on their phones. So they can give you information. You ask them for information in 5 minutes, they can give you information. So let's tap into our youth.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we have other questions, but I'm sorry, we must take 2 and try to keep it straight to the point, because We are wrapping up at this time. Just straight to the point, 1 minute to answer to ask a question, or 30 seconds to ask your questions. So back to ball, please speak at this time. Yeah, back to ball.
Hello. Yeah.
What happened now? You muted him.
Unmuted.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, speak.
Yeah. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. I greet you.
He wants you to
Yes.
respond, Canada.
Okay. Yes. I agree you too.
Yeah. Yes. You know this. I still want to bring you back to this problem of enabling environment for small businesses to operate. Now, you will agree with me that generally we have global issues. The pandemic problem is there, which is affecting every business. If you come to Nigeria, for instance, we have the national issues, which are also affecting the problems. Now, you now come locally, which is the state where you're operating from. The problems varies from state to state on how entrepreneurs should survive. Now, in terms of accessing some of these facilities, some states are having an advantage more than some states, apparently based on the policies of the state. There are some states that liaise directly with these government agencies on behalf of SMEs that operate in the states. There are also situations where policies being put in place by these various state governments help in assisting SMEs. Now, let me not go too far. Let me just say what is happening now recently with this lockdown. Now, I'm sorry I had to make this comparison. For instance, what is happening in Lagos? There is lockdown. The government will say in 2 weeks' time we're locking down first phase. But for instance, here in River State, a definite time is not given. Now, if a definite time is given, you find out that we, the small businesses, we can plan. Know fully well that in a week's time, in a 2 weeks' time, the lockdown will be over, or the next phase will be over, for us to maybe do 1 or 2 things in terms of production and planning. But the environment varies. Now, in situations like this, where you have a tougher environment to operate, where the government is totally does not recognize SMEs, the policies, there is nothing on ground to show that they have regard for SMEs. How do you operate?
All right, thank you very much.
It's a great point you're making, and I'm happy there are some members of the Chamber of Commerce here. And I talked about advocacy. Yeah. We have to advocate, because I know when our airport was still a canopy, I know how I pushed the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I know how I pushed him. So I don't know if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We have to push, because if you go as an individual, nobody will answer you. So the Chamber of Commerce that has to draw the attention of the governor to SMEs, whether he wants to listen or not. And you see, most of these things, they require persistence. There has to be some documentation. I don't know, Mrs. Hanson, you are more active in the Chamber of Commerce. There has to be some documentation to back up. Because if you notice, I've not talked about palliatives and all those kind of things, because that's giving people food to eat. But people that are here, I believe, should be giving people food to eat. So it's something that, please, the members of the Chamber of Commerce that are here, including Mrs. Hanson, need to take up. Yeah, they need to take up, because there has to be a viable SME sector in the state. I mean, with Faith Foundation, when I was still a director there, we did a lot of advocacy. We have annual policy dialogues, and we first of all started in Lagos. When we now discovered that people were not listening to us, we moved the policy dialogues to Abuja, and they started listening to us. So it's not only the Chamber of Commerce, even NGOs are doing it. So there has to be there's need for very, very strong advocacy, because sometimes, it depends on the orientation of who is in charge. Okay, so you have in Edo State, for example, you have an ambassador who is from the private sector, and is very, very eager to push business. He's doing industrial parks and all those kind of things. He's encouraging Presco, which is a company based in Edo State, by giving them more land. I believe also the Delta State government is encouraging them. So sometimes it also depends on the orientation or the focus of the government. But you also, through advocacy, can push the government to think in your own direction. But a lot of us, we just keep quiet and accept our fate. We can't accept our fate like that now. Can't accept that.
So
I'm
thank you
happy.
very much.
We're giving you that assignment, Mrs. Hansen.
Yeah, that's fine. The Chamber of Commerce is already doing some things regards ease of doing business, working with the government in that regard. So yeah, more push on that, and advocacy is fundamental. That's very true. So keep pushing on that.
Battle Boy is your friend, so you have to be giving Battle Boy feedback. Oh.
That's fine.
And make him join the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, he already knows all about that. All right, so let's quickly go to Collins. Collins Olania, please 30 seconds. We have to be out here. We have said we will not exceed 4 o'clock, so we want to keep to that. Collins, please, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mayoga. This is Collins from Ireland. Though one JC, I don't know the other name, has asked the question I was looking for. Talking about the logistics and the tourism in Nigeria. But at the same time, I'm just asking, even the education sector of it in Nigeria, most especially nowadays that most subjects or courses were being done online, with the rate at which even the internet, I was even surprised that this program can run for 2 hours, though we have little to each. But the network, even the network itself in Nigeria is a challenge. What's the way forward about that? The data, to have data that can be, it will be easy for Nigerians to communicate. I'm just looking at, it's something that is giving me what's it called, because most times, a friend of mine in his child's school, they are asking for 45,000 naira every month to run data, to give them lecture. How can that be?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I would just respond to that. You know, like Mr. Tanner has said, advocacy is just the way to go. I belong to a thematic lead in one of the thematic groups of the NESG, Committee of Practice. And one fundamental thing we have highlighted is that there's a need for the government to look strongly at providing the backbone, so that the network providers can actually operate optimally. Because right now, data is the new gold. Without data, you really can't do much. I'm also very impressed myself that, you know, we've had a history-free session. We had to look at various options, various network providers, diverse. We had to go really far to ensure that we got it right, and thank God it's functioning. But the truth is that there's a need to provide the enabling, the right backbone and other infrastructural needs to make the service providers provide efficient data, and then also cost effective. So there's already advocacy in that area, and we're making our recommendations. The NESG advocates very strongly and meets with even the governors forum. So there's a lot of advocacy in that area. Also, we have to just keep shouting. We have to just keep speaking. We have to keep going out there and do what we can do. Let's not keep quiet. If COVID-19 will not change Nigeria, then something will happen. But I believe strongly that lessons have been learned. And as we keep advocating, let's all not stop advocating. We are all stakeholders. We have seen the various roles stakeholders play. Everyone just play your part so that we can get this going. So this is exactly 4 o'clock. In your kita, I give you 30 seconds because your hands have been up for a while. 30 seconds, please. I know you're an orator. 30 seconds. And Mr. Kalada, you have 20 seconds, in fact, to respond to him.
Well, thank you very much, madam. I'm actually not an orator, but yeah. Okay, my time starts now. Thank you so much. I must commend you for this laudable initiative, for putting up this discourse on this virtual forum. My JC Senator Apiafi, good afternoon, sir. Well, mine is just a contribution, as a matter of fact, another question, please. I was so impressed with the a story about how you started off your consulting firm, sir. And my word to SMEs is this. Let me take a personal experience. Yeah, I work in the public sector, but I tell you, this lockdown has been more of a blessing to me than a worry, in the sense that it has made me develop capacity in the area of personal development and entrepreneurial skills. I've taken up courses I've never imagined if I was at work, I'd really have the time to. And secondly, I have an average of 3 webinars in a day. I mean, for about 2 months running right now. So I can imagine myself going back to work and how my chief executive will look at me. So the word I'm trying to send across is, please, for the SMEs, let's not look for what the country will do for us, but let's think deep. Let's be strategic. Because the weakest way to start business is to start looking for money. Money won't come. Create the idea. There's a need. I heard someone talk about the internet. Right now, as I tell you, I'm trying to interface with some of my friends outside to see if we can bring a viable internet service provider to Nigeria. And even talking to a friend of mine in the telecom regulatory company, NCC. And to see, Madame made mention of the backbone thing, which I'm quite conversant with the issue. So let's look at ways to be able to profess solutions to the nagging problems in Nigeria and stop looking up to government for assistance and all of that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So at this time, we know, I wish we could just keep this going, but we really have to come to a close. For me, it is leverage, leverage, leverage. Even in the midst of this pandemic, there are still opportunities. What are those sectors that you can look at, research and look at and find out where can it function in the value chain, the supply value chain? So it is leverage, leverage, leverage. So Kalada Apiafi, we do have the final words at this time. Let's also remember that the recording is on our portals. We will show them show that out once Mr. Kalada gives the final word.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of you that took part, and hope that you found it useful. We did it for you, not for us. So we hope you found it useful. And I'm happy we're ending around the internet, because that is key. And just like Nyoki said, we in the private sector have to challenge ourselves. We have heard of Main One. That's the only company that is providing fiber optics and things like that. There's only one company. And I mean, when this woman tells you her story, she raised $30 million to set up that business from Keokweke. So we need more of those companies. You know, people, like I said, well, it's okay, it's difficult to raise money, but she raised $30 million. Translate that to Naira. So let's not, ask the public sector. You know, one of the challenges we have in Nigeria, we ask the public sector to do things which the private sector should be doing. For example, refineries. It's private sector that runs refineries now. So when you give it to the public sector now, it won't run well. So let the private sector, let's take our fate into our hands. It's not an easy thing, but we can do it. I mean, we've been doing it for many years. I first read about SMEs in the 80s, and we're making a lot of noise about SMEs from the 80s until SMEDAN was set up. So, you know, it's a question of persistence. An agency was eventually set up, because when I read that book about SMEs, I discovered that there are SME agencies in most countries, and so developing SMEs is a deliberate thing. It doesn't just happen by chance. There are policies and programs to develop SMEs. And lo and behold, SMEDAN came into place, I think, 2002. So persistence pays off. So whatever we want Nigeria to be, we just have to keep working at it till whenever.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Kalada. I can't thank you enough for this very insightful and engaging time spent. And thank you for our participants also. The recording is on Facebook. You can watch it over and over again. This is our handle. Our handles are here. We have Facebook, Twitter, Wider Perspectives on YouTube, Instagram, and then if you have questions, you can send your questions to our email address. We're here to speak with you, to connect with you. It's been an engaging time, and we want to say thank you and thank you again, and wish you really well hoping that you will implement all the learning that you have gotten from this. So at this time, we will end the webinar. We could also open up our videos to say bye to everyone. And okay, if you can't open our videos, I will unmute everyone so I can say bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, madam. Please, I'd appreciate if you could presentation slides to everyone who attended, please. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Happy lockdown.
Thank you very much.
Oga Kalada.
Happy lockdown.
She's quite an
Madam Hanson, please do us a favor. I'd appreciate if you could send the presentation slide over. Thank you so much. I had a quality time with you guys. Bye-bye.
I appreciate you all much.